The emergency council chamber filled with worried voices. Representatives from dozens of star systems sat around the massive circular table. Their translator devices buzzed with countless languages being spoken at once. Ambassador Keth Ra of the Zephyrian Commonwealth tapped her claws on the metal surface. "Order, we must have order." Her voice cut through the noise. The room slowly grew quiet. "The reports are confirmed," she said, reading from her datapad. "The Vorthak Empire has declared war on the human territories. All human colonies in the Outer Rim are under attack." A ripple of confusion swept through the chamber. The insectoid delegate from Arcturus Prime clicked his mandibles in what humans would recognize as laughter. The Vorthaks attacked the humans. But why? What could they possibly gain? Elder Mox, the ancient turtle-like being from the core worlds, shook his massive head. "This makes no sense. Humans are barely out of their home system. They have perhaps 50 colonies at most. Why would the Vorthak Empire waste resources on such a small threat?" The holographic display in the center of the room showed the galaxy map. Red markers indicated Vorthak fleet movements. They were indeed heading straight for human space. Blue dots marked human settlements, looking tiny compared to the vast red arrows moving toward them. "Perhaps they want the humans as slaves," suggested the crystalline entity from Sigma Draconis. Her voice rang like wind chimes. "Humans are physically strong for their size. They could be useful in mining operations." Ambassador Kethra pulled up more data. "According to our intelligence, the Vorthak sent 3 full battle fleets. Over 2,000 ships total. They are treating this like a major campaign against the hegemony itself." This caused another wave of confused murmurs. The hegemony was the galaxy's largest military power. Only someone truly desperate or truly insane would attack them with such force. "Wait," said the delegate from the Centauri Federation, his blue skin darkening with worry. "Are we sure the Vorthaks haven't made a mistake? Perhaps they think they are attacking someone else." Elder Mox accessed his personal database. "Let me review what we know about humans. They discovered faster-than-light travel only 200 years ago. Their ships are primitive. They still use chemical explosives for weapons. Most of their colonies have populations under 1 million. They barely qualify for associate membership in the Galactic Council." The insectoid delegate buzzed in agreement. "Exactly. Humans are harmless. They spend most of their time arguing among themselves about resources and territory. Their military technology is at least 500 years behind galactic standard." A new voice entered the discussion. Commander Vex of the Galactic Defense Force accessed the main display. "I have been monitoring the situation. The Vorthak First Fleet reached the human system called New Horizons 6 hours ago." Everyone leaned forward with interest. The Vorthaks were known for their efficiency. They would overwhelm a primitive human colony in minutes. What was the result? As Kethra, Commander Vex hesitated. "The colony went dark. All communications stopped. We assume it was destroyed as expected." "How long did the humans resist?" asked the crystalline being. "That is the strange part," Vex replied. "Our sensors detected weapons fire for over 3 hours. Usually, Vorthak fleets finish primitive civilizations in less than 30 minutes. This caused some worried glances around the table. Elder Mox spoke slowly. 3 hours? Are we certain the humans did not have help? Perhaps the hegemony secretly placed defense platforms in their space." Commander Vex checked his data again. Negative. All weapon signatures were consistent with human technology. Primitive projectile weapons, basic energy shields, chemical propulsion systems. The Arcturus delegate clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. 3 hours against a Vorthak fleet using primitive weapons? That seems unlikely. Kethra brought up the tactical analysis. Perhaps the humans had more ships than we thought. How many vessels did they have at New Horizon? According to our last census, the New Horizon system had 12 patrol craft and 2 freight haulers. Vex answered. Total combat capability was rated as negligible. The room fell silent. 14 ships holding off a Vorthak fleet for 3 hours was impossible. Vorthak ships were among the most advanced in the galaxy. Their plasma cannons could destroy most vessels in a single hit. "There must be an error in the data," said the Centauri delegate. "No one fights Vorthaks for 3 hours with chemical weapons." Elder Mox was already accessing more files. "I am reviewing historical records of human conflicts. Perhaps we missed something important about their military capabilities." The main display showed various human wars throughout their history. Images of massive battles, burning cities, and primitive but numerous weapon systems flashed past. "Look at this," Mox said. highlighting specific data points. Humans have been fighting each other continuously for their entire recorded history. They have had over 15,000 separate conflicts in the past 3,000 years. That proves they are primitive, scoffed the insectoid delegate. Civilized species learn to resolve conflicts peacefully. Yes, but look at the scale, Mox continued. Some of their wars involved millions of combatants. They once fought a global conflict that lasted 6 years and killed over 50 million individuals. The chamber grew uncomfortable. Most galactic civilizations had never seen warfare on such a scale. Kethra frowned at the display. These numbers cannot be accurate. 50 million casualties? That would represent the entire population of most civilized worlds. The data appears to be correct, Mox replied grimly, and this was before they developed space travel. They were killing each other in these numbers using ground-based weapons. Commander Vex interrupted with an urgent tone. I am receiving new reports. The Vorthak Second Fleet has reached the human colony at Kepler Station. All attention focused on him. And combat is ongoing. It has been 4 hours since first contact. The silence stretched longer this time. 2 colonies fighting for hours against Vorthak fleets was beyond coincidence. How is this possible? Whispered the crystalline being. Vorthak plasma weapons can penetrate any known shield technology below Class 7. Humans have Class 2 shields at best. Elder Mox was still studying human military history. There is something else. Humans appear to have a concept they call acceptable losses. They regularly planned military operations where they expected to lose 30% or more of their forces. 30%? The Centauri delegate looked sick. What kind of species considers such casualties acceptable? The kind that has 15,000 wars in 3,000 years, Mox answered darkly. Commander Vex looked up from his console with growing alarm. The Vorthak Third Fleet is approaching the human world called Armstrong Colony. It is their largest settlement in the region. Nearly 10 million inhabitants. Now we will see what humans can really do, said Kethra. 10 million civilians and whatever defense force they have managed to build. The room watched the tactical display as read. Markers representing the massive Vorthak fleet approached. The blue dot of Armstrong Colony. Everyone expected the same pattern. A brief fight followed by silence. But as the hours passed, something very different began to happen. Status report, demanded Kethra. Commander Vex stared at his instruments in disbelief. The human colony is... They are not just defending. They appear to be launching counterattacks. Counterattacks? The insectoid delegate's mandibles clicked rapidly. Against a Vorthak fleet? The sensor data shows human ships leaving the colony and engaging Vorthak vessels directly. They are using ramming attacks. Elder Mox looked up sharply. Ramming attacks? They are crashing their ships into the enemy? Confirmed. Multiple human vessels have deliberately collided with Vorthak ships. The Vorthaks appear to be confused by this tactic. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Ramming attacks were considered a last resort, used only by the most desperate or unstable species. Civilized beings did not throw away expensive starships and trained crews in suicide attacks. Kethra called for quiet again. How effective are these ramming attacks? Vex consulted his data with growing amazement. 3 Vorthak cruisers have been destroyed or disabled. The humans are targeting engine sections and weapon arrays. They seem to know exactly where to hit for maximum damage. But they are losing their own ships, protested the Centauri delegate. Yes, estimated human losses are 60% so far, but they continue attacking. The room fell into stunned silence. Most species would surrender after losing even 20% of their forces. Humans were continuing to fight after losing more than half their ships. Elder Mox spoke quietly. Perhaps we have made an error in our assessment of humanity. Outside the council chamber across the galaxy, the Vorthak Empire was beginning to reach the same conclusion, but it was already too late to stop what they had started. Admiral Thexka of the Vorthak First Assault Fleet stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His flagship, the mighty Devastator, hung in space surrounded by the wreckage of what had once been a simple human mining colony. Report, he demanded, his forearms gesturing impatiently at his bridge crew. Sir, the human settlement has been destroyed, but... His tactical officer hesitated. But what? We lost 6 ships, Admiral, including the heavy cruiser Dominator. Thexka's primary eyes focused sharply on the officer, while his secondary eyes continued watching the display.
6 ships?
Against a mining colony? Yes, sir. The humans employed unconventional tactics. They converted mining ships into attack vessels and filled cargo containers with explosives. The admiral's mandibles clicked together in frustration. Vorthak fleets were the most feared military force in 3 sectors of the galaxy. They had conquered 47 civilizations without losing more than 1 ship per campaign. Losing 6 ships to a single human colony was impossible. "Show me the tactical recordings," he ordered. The main screen displayed the battle from multiple angles. Thexka watched as small human ships approached his vessels at maximum speed. Instead of trying to exchange weapons fire at a safe distance, they rushed directly toward the Vorthak ships. "They are attempting ramming attacks," observed his weapons officer. "Most illogical. They will be destroyed." But the recordings showed something else. The human ships were not simply crashing blindly. They targeted specific sections of the Vorthak vessels: engine housing, weapon control systems, shield generators. When they hit, they caused far more damage than their small size should have allowed. "How did they know our weak points?" demanded the admiral. His intelligence officer consulted her data. "Unknown, sir. These technical details are classified at the highest levels. No human should have access to this information." On screen, a converted human cargo ship filled with chemical explosives rammed directly into the shield generator of the cruiser Dominator. The explosion tore through the Vorthak ship's armor like it was made of paper. "Pause the recording," ordered Thexka. He studied the explosion pattern carefully. These were not random explosives. They knew exactly how much force was needed to breach our hull at that specific point. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. The Vorthak Empire had spent centuries developing their military technology. Their ships were supposed to be invulnerable to primitive attacks. "Admiral," called the communications officer. "Message from Fleet Command. Admiral Morkex of the 2nd Fleet is requesting immediate reinforcements." "Reinforcements? For a human agricultural colony?" "Sir, the 2nd Fleet has been engaged at Kepler Station for 8 hours. They report unusual resistance." Thexka felt a cold sensation in his core body temperature. 2 fleets having trouble with human colonies was beyond coincidence. "Put me through to Admiral Morkex directly." The screen flickered and showed the bridge of another Vorthak flagship. Admiral Morkex looked stressed and agitated. Smoke was visible in the background. "Thexka." "Thank the void you called. I need backup immediately." "What is your situation, Morkex?" "The humans are insane. Completely insane. They have turned their entire colony into a weapon. Every ship, every station, every piece of industrial equipment has been converted for combat. Surely your fleet can handle converted civilian vessels?" Morkex's mandibles clicked rapidly with stress. "You do not understand. They are not fighting like any civilized species. They hide inside asteroid fields and ambush our patrols. They use their cargo ships as guided missiles. They even evacuated a space station and crashed it into our carrier." "An entire space station?" 3 million tons of metal and machinery, loaded with explosives moving at ramming speed. It took our carrier annihilator completely by surprise. The ship was destroyed with all hands. Thexka felt his confidence wavering. The annihilator was one of the most powerful ships in the Vorthak fleet. Nothing should have been able to destroy it except another major warship. "How are your losses?" 17 ships destroyed, 23 damaged. And we still have not reached the main colony. They keep forcing us to fight for every asteroid, every orbital platform, every supply depot. The admiral was quiet for a moment. 17 ships was more than most Vorthak campaigns lost in total. "What is your assessment of human military capability?" "They have no advanced technology," Morkex replied. "Their weapons are primitive, their ships are slow, their tactics are crude. But they never retreat, never surrender. They fight until every last ship is destroyed." "Every ship?" "Every ship, Thexka. I have never seen anything like it. We destroyed their outer defense grid, and they immediately launched counterattacks with civilian vessels. We crippled their orbital factories, and they started building weapons inside the wreckage. When we cornered a group of their fighters, they activated self-destruct charges rather than be captured." Thexka was beginning to understand why the Galactic Council had been so confused by this war. Humans did not fight like any known species. "Admiral," interrupted his communications officer. "Priority message from the 3rd Fleet. Put it through." Another Vorthak commander appeared on screen. Admiral Zexvo looked even worse than Morkex. Her bridge showed signs of battle damage and several of her crew appeared to be injured. Thexka, I need immediate assistance. The humans at Armstrong Colony have launched a full-scale offensive. Offensive? They are attacking your fleet? 200 ships, Sexvo replied grimly. Everything from military patrol craft to converted passenger liners. They are not trying to defend the colony. They are trying to destroy my entire fleet. This was impossible. The third fleet was the largest of the 3 assault groups. It contained over 800 ships, including 4 battle carriers and 12 heavy cruisers. How can 200 primitive ships threaten 800 advanced warships? Because they do not care about survival. Zexvo's voice rose to near panic. They send waves of ships directly at us with no concern for losses. While we are dealing with ramming attacks from converted freighters, their actual military ships attack our flanks with coordinated strikes. What are your casualties? 43 ships destroyed, 67 damaged. But that is not the worst part. The humans are learning from each engagement. They started with random ramming attacks. Now they are using sophisticated multi-vector assault patterns. Thexka felt a chill of fear. Sophisticated tactics meant intelligence and planning. This was not the desperate thrashing of a primitive species. This was coordinated military strategy. Are they receiving help from another power? The hegemony, perhaps? Negative. All weapon signatures are human. All ship designs are human, but their tactical knowledge is increasing exponentially. The Admiral considered this information carefully. How long have you been engaged? 14 hours of continuous combat. They attack in shifts, allowing some crews to rest while others maintain pressure on our fleet. 14 hours of continuous combat was beyond the endurance of most military forces. Even Vorthak crews needed rest between major engagements. Send me your tactical logs immediately, ordered Thexka. I need to understand what we are facing. The data transfer took several minutes. As Thexka reviewed the recordings, he began to see patterns that disturbed him greatly. The humans had started the battle with crude tactics, direct frontal assaults with whatever ships they had available. But with each passing hour, their attacks became more sophisticated. They began coordinating timing to hit multiple targets simultaneously. They started using feints and diversions. They even began adapting their weapons to exploit weaknesses they discovered in Vorthak ship designs. They are learning, he said quietly. Sir? Asked his tactical officer. The humans are learning our weaknesses in real-time combat. Look at these attack patterns. In the first hour, they achieved a 12% hit rate with their ramming attacks. By hour 10, they achieved 47%. How is that possible, Admiral? Thexka studied the data more carefully. They are sharing information between ships instantly. When one group discovers a weakness, all other groups immediately begin exploiting it. This was the mark of a truly advanced military communication system. Most species took days or weeks to analyze combat data and develop new tactics. Humans appeared to be doing it in real time. Admiral, called his intelligence officer urgently, I am detecting unusual signals from human space. What kind of signals? High-speed data transmissions. They appear to be sending detailed information about our ship designs, weapon capabilities, and tactical responses to every human colony in their territory. The bridge fell silent. This meant every human settlement now knew exactly how to fight Vorthak fleets effectively. Sir, added the communications officer, I am also detecting transmissions from human space to other systems. They appear to be sending the same tactical data to their allies and trading partners. Thexka realized with growing horror that this information would soon reach the Galactic Council. Every species in the galaxy would know how to exploit Vorthak military weaknesses. Get me Fleet Command immediately. Priority Alpha. Within minutes, Supreme Admiral Korth Rex appeared on screen. His expression was already grim. Thexka, report your status. Sir, the human campaign is not proceeding as planned. We have encountered unexpected resistance and significant casualties. The Galactic Council chamber had not seen such chaos in 500 years. Representatives from dozens of species talked over each other in rising panic, while emergency reports streamed in from across the galaxy. Ambassador Keth Ra stood at the central podium, trying to maintain order. Her voice projection system was turned to maximum volume. Honored delegates, please. We must organize our response. Elder Mox, the ancient being from the core worlds, activated his personal force field to amplify his voice. The situation has moved far beyond our initial assessments. We are no longer dealing with a simple territorial dispute. The insectoid delegate from Arcturus Prime was clicking his mandibles rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. The humans have destroyed or disabled over 100 Vorthak ships. How is this possible? Commander Vex of the Galactic Defense Force accessed the main display. New tactical information flowed across the screen in real time. According to our latest intelligence, human forces have not only repelled the Vorthak invasion, but have begun pursuing their fleets into neutral space. This statement caused an uproar. Pursuing a retreating enemy was considered acceptable, but humans were chasing Vorthak ships across multiple star systems. They cannot pursue the Vorthaks indefinitely, protested the crystalline delegate from Sigma Draconis. Surely they lack the logistics for extended operations. That assumption appears to be incorrect, replied Vex grimly. He highlighted new data on the display. Human ships are operating far beyond their established supply lines. They appear to be using captured Vorthak equipment to maintain their vessels. Elder Mox leaned forward with interest. They are cannibalizing enemy ships for spare parts? More than that, Elder. They are reverse engineering Vorthak technology in real time and incorporating it into their own systems. The chamber fell silent. Reverse engineering advanced alien technology typically took decades of careful study by entire research teams. Doing it during active combat was theoretically impossible. Show us the tactical recordings, demanded Kethra. The main screen displayed footage from various battles across human space. The delegates watched in growing amazement as human ships demonstrated capabilities that should not exist. A converted human cargo vessel had somehow modified its engines to outrun a Vorthak interceptor. A human patrol craft was using weapons that fired Vorthak plasma bolts. Most shocking of all, several human ships had shield systems that were clearly based on Vorthak defensive technology. When did humans develop this technological adaptability? Asked the Centauri delegate. Commander Vex consulted his database. According to historical records, humans have always shown remarkable ability to adapt and modify existing technology. During their early space exploration period, they regularly took equipment, designed for one purpose and modified it for completely different applications. Give us examples, ordered Kethra. They converted atmospheric shuttles into orbital fighters. They modified mining equipment into shipbuilding tools. They even adapted entertainment systems into communication networks during emergencies. The insectoid delegate buzzed thoughtfully. So they have always been technology scavengers? Not scavengers, corrected Elder Mox after reviewing additional files. Improvisers. Humans appear to have an exceptional ability to see alternative uses for any device or system. This was beginning to explain how human forces were performing so well against superior Vorthak technology. They were not trying to match it directly. They were finding creative ways to use it against its original designers. But that still does not explain their tactical coordination, pointed out the crystalline delegate. Our reports indicate human ships across multiple star systems are acting with perfect synchronization. Vex brought up communication intercepts. We have been monitoring human transmissions throughout the conflict. They appear to be using a distributed command structure rather than centralized military hierarchy, meaning every human ship captain has complete autonomy to make tactical decisions, but they instantly share all information with every other human unit in range. This caused another wave of confused murmurs. Most galactic military forces used rigid command structures with clear chains of authority. Individual commanders rarely had permission to make major tactical decisions without approval from higher-ranking officers. How do they prevent conflicting orders or contradictory strategies? Asked the Arcturus delegate. They appear to use consensus-based decision-making in real time, Vex replied. When multiple options are available, they quickly vote on the best approach and implement it immediately. Elder Mox was studying the data with growing respect. This is actually quite sophisticated. It allows them to respond to changing conditions much faster than traditional military hierarchies. It should also cause chaos and confusion, protested the Centauri delegate. Too many voices giving orders always leads to paralysis. Normally, yes, but humans seem to have natural ability to quickly reach agreement under pressure. Ambassador Kethra was reviewing casualty reports. What are the current losses on both sides? Vorthak forces have lost approximately 130 ships destroyed, 200 damaged. Human losses are estimated at over 400 ships destroyed. 400 ships? The crystalline delegate rang with shock. They are losing 3 ships for every Vorthak ship destroyed. How is this considered successful? Because they started with over 800 ships, Vex replied quietly. And they are continuing to launch new vessels faster than we can count them. This statement created the deepest silence yet. Most civilizations carefully preserve their ships and crews. Losing several vessels in a single battle was considered a major disaster. How many ships do humans have? Asked Kethra. Vex hesitated before answering. We are no longer certain. Our initial intelligence indicated fewer than 200 military vessels across all human space. Current estimates suggest they may have over 2,000 ships actively engaged in combat. 2,000? Where did they get so many ships? They appear to be converting civilian vessels for military use at an unprecedented rate. Cargo ships, passenger liners, mining vessels, research ships, even orbital shuttles have been equipped with weapons and sent into battle. Elder Mox was accessing historical databases again. I am reviewing human military history for precedents. Yes, here it is. During their global conflicts, humans regularly converted civilian factories to produce military equipment. They once converted automobile manufacturing plants to build aircraft. But ships are far more complex than ground vehicles, protested the insectoid delegate. True, but humans appear to have simplified the conversion process. They are not trying to build proper military vessels. They are creating single-purpose weapons platforms designed for specific tactical roles. The main display showed examples of human ship conversions. A passenger liner had been fitted with missile launchers and armor plating. A cargo vessel had been converted into a mobile repair facility. Most impressive was a luxury cruise ship that had been transformed into a command and control platform. This level of industrial mobilization is extraordinary, admitted the Centauri delegate. Most species require months or years to retool civilian production for military purposes. Humans appear to have done it in weeks, said Vex. How? They ignored safety regulations, quality control standards, and normal construction procedures. Their converted ships are crude, unreliable, and have very short operational lifespans. But they work. They work well enough for combat operations, and when one is destroyed, they have already built 2 more to replace it. Ambassador Kethra was beginning to understand the scope of what they were witnessing. Are you saying humans have converted their entire civilization into a military production system? That appears to be accurate. Every human colony is now building weapons, modifying ships, and training personnel for combat operations. But why? The Vorthak invasion only targeted a few border colonies. Why did all of humanity mobilize? Elder Mox found the answer in his historical research. Because humans have a concept called total war. When they perceive an existential threat, they commit every available resource to defeating that threat, even at the cost of their civilian economy. Especially at the cost of their civilian economy. During their most serious conflicts, humans willingly accepted massive reductions in living standards in order to maximize military production. The delegates were struggling to comprehend this level of commitment. Most galactic civilizations tried to minimize the impact of warfare on civilian populations. Commander Vex, called Kethra. What is the current status of the Vorthak invasion fleets? All 3 fleets are in full retreat. The 1st and 2nd fleets have withdrawn to the Kappa sector. The 3rd fleet is attempting to reach the neutral zone. Are the humans pursuing? Yes. Human forces are maintaining contact with all retreating Vorthak units. They appear to be preventing the fleets from regrouping or establishing defensive positions. This was becoming a rout rather than a strategic withdrawal. The most feared military force in 3 sectors was being systematically hunted by a species that had been considered primitive just days ago. How are the Vorthaks responding to this pursuit? Vex consulted real-time intelligence reports. They are requesting assistance from the Galactic Council. Specifically, they want us to mediate a ceasefire. The irony was overwhelming. The Vorthak Empire, which had deep in the command center of the human colony ship Armstrong's Revenge, Admiral Sarah Chen studied the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. Around her, dozens of officers coordinated the largest military operation in human history. Status report, she ordered. Commander Jackson, her tactical officer, consulted his screens. Vorthak First Fleet is trapped in the Kepler system. They're trying to establish a defensive perimeter around the gas giant, but our hunter-killer groups are preventing them from consolidating. Second Fleet, running hard for the neutral zone. Captain Morrison's task force is harassing their rear guard. They've lost another 3 ships in the last hour trying to slow us down. Admiral Chen nodded. The plan was working exactly as designed. When the Vorthax had attacked human space, they had expected to face a primitive, disorganized resistance. Instead, they had triggered protocols that humanity had been developing for over 2 centuries. What about the Third Fleet? That's where it gets interesting, replied Commander Torres from the intelligence station. They've holed up in an asteroid field in the Theta system. Heavily fortified position. They're making a stand. How many ships? Approximately 400 vessels, including their flagship Eternal Dominion. It's one of their super dreadnoughts. Admiral Chen considered this information. The Third Fleet was the largest intact Vorthak force remaining. Destroying it would effectively end their ability to project power in this sector of the galaxy. What do we have available for assault operations? 6th Battle Group is in position. 320 ships, including the converted assault carriers we finished last week. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. The assault carriers were a perfect example of human adaptability. They had taken luxury passenger ships and converted them into mobile bases, capable of launching hundreds of small attack craft. Begin the assault. Standard doctrine. Overwhelming force applied to multiple points simultaneously. Admiral, interrupted Lieutenant Davis from the communication station, we're receiving another surrender offer from the Vorthax. They're promising full reparations and complete withdrawal from human space. Response? The same as before, ma'am. No response. This was part of the strategy, too. Humans had learned from their own history that negotiating with aggressors while they still possessed significant military capability only led to future conflicts. Better to remove that capability entirely. Admiral, called Commander Torres urgently. I'm detecting new contacts in the Gamma sector. Looks like a Galactic Council observation fleet. Admiral Chen frowned. The Council had been sending neutral observers to monitor the conflict. In reality, they were gathering intelligence on human military capabilities. How many ships? 12 vessels. Various species. They're maintaining position at the edge of our engagement zone. Let them watch. It's time the galaxy learned what humans can really do when we're properly motivated. She turned to address the entire command center. All stations, this is Admiral Chen. In 4 hours, we will begin the final assault on Vorthak Third Fleet. This represents the largest concentration of enemy forces remaining in our operational area. The room fell silent as officers focused on her words. Want everyone to understand what we're accomplishing here. 3 months ago, the Vorthak Empire was considered the most dangerous military power in 3 sectors. They had conquered 47 civilizations. Their fleets had never been defeated in open combat. She gestured to the tactical displays showing Vorthak forces scattered and retreating across multiple star systems. Today, we have effectively destroyed their ability to project power beyond their home systems. More importantly, we have demonstrated to every potential aggressor in the galaxy that humanity will not tolerate unprovoked attacks on our people. The officers nodded grimly. Many of them had friends or family on the colonies that had been attacked. This was personal as well as strategic. But we're not just fighting for revenge. We're fighting to establish a new reality in galactic politics. For too long, species like the Vorthax have used military force to bully smaller civilizations. They attacked us because they thought we were weak and primitive. Admiral Chen's voice hardened. They were wrong, and every species in the galaxy is going to learn from their mistake. She activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Prepare for final assault on enemy positions in the Theta system. Remember, we're not just representing Earth or the colonies. We're representing every civilization that has ever been victimized by military aggression. Across human space, over 2,000 ships began moving toward their final objective. The largest human fleet ever assembled was about to demonstrate exactly why attacking humanity had been the worst decision in Vorthak history. Meanwhile, in the observation fleet, representatives from dozens of galactic civilizations watched with growing amazement and concern. Captain Ethmore of the Hegemony vessel Arbitrator studied the sensor readings with professional interest. As the galaxy's premier military force, the Hegemony took careful note of any new tactical developments. Analysis, he ordered. His tactical officer, a veteran of 30 campaigns, reviewed the data carefully. Sir, human fleet coordination is unlike anything in our tactical databases. They're using distributed command protocols that allow for real-time adaptation to changing battlefield conditions. Explain. Instead of rigid command hierarchies, each human ship captain has authority to make independent tactical decisions, but they're constantly sharing information with all other units, creating a collective intelligence that responds to threats faster than traditional command structures. Captain Ethmore considered this. What are the advantages? Extreme flexibility and rapid response time. When they encounter unexpected enemy tactics, every ship in the fleet learns about it and adapts within minutes. Disadvantages? Should be chaos and confusion. Too many independent actors making decisions typically results in contradictory orders and friendly fire incidents. But that's not happening here? No, sir. Human crews appear to have natural ability to reach consensus quickly under pressure. They argue briefly, agree on the best approach, and implement it immediately. This was disturbing news for traditional military organizations. The hegemony, like most galactic powers, relied on strict hierarchical command structures with clear chains of authority. What about their industrial mobilization? His economics officer provided the analysis. Unprecedented, sir. They've converted their entire civilian economy to military production in less than 2 months. Current estimates suggest they're producing over 50 new combat vessels per week. 50 per week. How is that possible? They're not building traditional military ships, sir. They're converting civilian vessels and equipping them for specific tactical roles. Quality is poor. Operational lifespans are short, but they work well enough for combat operations. Captain Ethmore was beginning to understand why the Vorthak invasion had failed so dramatically. So they're treating ships as expendable resources rather than valuable assets? Exactly, sir. Most species try to preserve ships and crews. Humans appear willing to accept massive casualties as long as they achieve their strategic objectives. This was perhaps the most disturbing aspect of human military doctrine. Most civilized species had learned to wage war with minimal casualties and economic disruption. Humans seemed to view total warfare as an acceptable response to existential threats. Captain, interrupted his communications officer, I'm receiving transmissions from the human fleet. They appear to be coordinating a major assault. Can you decode their tactical communications? Partially, sir. They're using multiple encryption systems and frequently switching frequencies. But the general pattern suggests they're preparing to attack the Vorthak position in the asteroid field. Captain Ethmore activated the main display. Show me the tactical situation. The screen revealed the Theta System asteroid field where Vorthak 3rd Fleet had established defensive positions. 400 Vorthak ships were arranged in overlapping defensive formations among the asteroids, using the rocky debris as cover and defensive barriers. Strong position, observed the tactical officer. Attacking forces would have to approach through narrow channels where they could be destroyed piecemeal. That's how most species would approach it, agreed the captain. What are the humans doing? The answer became clear as human ships began appearing throughout the system. Instead of approaching through the obvious channels, they were coming from every direction simultaneously. How did they get ships positioned behind the Vorthak formation? Demanded the tactical officer. Unknown, sir. Our sensors show human vessels emerging from locations where no ships were previously detected. Captain Ethmore studied the display more carefully. They've been hiding ships inside asteroids, sir. Look at the approach vectors. Human ships are emerging from asteroids throughout the field. They must have positioned vessels inside the larger rocks days ago. This represented a level of strategic planning that most species associated with the most advanced military organizations. Yet humans had achieved it using primitive technology and improvised tactics. The assault is beginning, reported the communications officer. On the display, over 300 human. The Galactic Council emergency session had been ongoing for 6 straight hours. Representatives from 43 species filled the vast chamber, their voices creating a cacophony of concern, fear, and amazement. At the center of it all sat Ambassador Keith Ra, trying to process information that fundamentally changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare, politics, and the nature of civilization itself. Order. We must have order, she called out, activating her voice amplification system to maximum power. Elder Mox, the ancient being whose species had been part of the galactic community for over 3,000 years, slowly rose from his position. The chamber gradually quieted out of respect for his age and wisdom. Fellow beings, he said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries, we are witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. In less than 4 months, a species we considered primitive has completely destroyed one of our most powerful military forces. The crystalline delegate from Sigma Draconis resonated with a sound like breaking glass. Destroyed is too gentle a word, Elder. The humans have obliterated the Vorthak Empire as a military power. Their fleets are gone, their industrial capacity is crippled, and their colonies are in full revolt. Commander Vex of the Galactic Defense Force accessed the main display, showing the latest intelligence reports. Current estimates indicate that 94% of Vorthak military vessels have been destroyed or captured. The remaining 6% have retreated to their home system and are requesting asylum from neutral powers. The insectoid delegate from Arcturus Prime clicked his mandibles rapidly.
How is this possible?
The Vorthaks had over 3,000 ships at the start of this conflict. They were the dominant military power in 3 sectors. They made several critical errors, replied Elder Mox, consulting his extensive historical databases. First, they underestimated human military potential. Second, they attacked human civilian populations, which triggered total mobilization. Third, they attempted to fight humans using conventional galactic warfare doctrine. What do you mean by conventional doctrine? Asked the Centauri delegate. Limited engagement rules, preservation of expensive assets, minimal civilian involvement, negotiated settlements when casualties become unacceptable, Mox explained. Humans appear to follow none of these conventions. Commander Vex highlighted specific data on the display. Human forces have demonstrated willingness to accept casualty rates that would cause most species to surrender immediately. They regularly sacrifice expensive equipment to achieve tactical objectives. They have converted their entire civilian economy to military production. Most importantly, they refuse to negotiate while enemy forces retain any significant combat capability. The chamber digested this information with growing unease. Every species represented in the council had developed elaborate social and military conventions designed to limit the destructive impact of warfare. Humans seem to ignore all such limitations, but surely they cannot maintain such an effort indefinitely, protested the crystalline delegate. Total warfare is economically unsustainable. Under normal circumstances, yes, agreed Elder Mox, but humans appear to have certain characteristics that make total warfare more sustainable for them than for other species, such as extremely high tolerance for hardship, exceptional ability to improvise solutions with limited resources, and most significantly, psychological resilience that allows them to maintain morale even under severe stress. Commander Vex brought up comparative studies. Our xenopsychology experts have been analyzing human behavior throughout this conflict. They report that human morale actually increases under pressure rather than decreasing. That makes no sense, objected the insectoid delegate. Stress should reduce performance and willingness to fight. For most species, yes, but humans appear to have evolved psychological mechanisms that allow them to thrive in high-stress situations. They become more focused, more cooperative, and more creative when facing existential threats. This information sent a chill through the chamber. Most galactic species had evolved to avoid conflict whenever possible. The idea of a species that became more dangerous when threatened was deeply disturbing. What are the implications for galactic security? Asked Ambassador Kethra. Elder Mox was already analyzing the political ramifications. Immediate implications include the complete collapse of Vorthak influence in 3 sectors, creating a power vacuum that will need to be filled. Long-term implications are more serious. Explain. The humans have demonstrated that conventional military superiority can be overcome through unconventional tactics, total mobilization, and acceptable casualty rates that exceed normal parameters. This knowledge will spread throughout the galaxy. Commander Vex nodded grimly. We're already detecting increased military activity in multiple sectors. Species that were previously deterred by superior enemy forces are now reassessing their strategic options. The crystalline delegate resonated with concern. You're saying the human victory will encourage other conflicts? Worse than that, replied Mox. The humans have shared their tactical innovations with anyone willing to listen. Their transmission protocols, conversion techniques, and coordination methods are now available to every species in 43 sectors. The implications were staggering. For centuries, galactic peace had been maintained by clear military hierarchies. Strong species protected weaker ones in exchange for resources and loyalty. Weak species accepted subordinate roles rather than face military destruction. But if weak species could now use human tactics to defeat stronger opponents, the entire galactic order would collapse into chaos. We need to establish formal relations with humanity immediately, declared the Centauri delegate. They have become a major power whether we acknowledge it or not. Agreed, said Kethra. But what kind of relationship do we establish with a species that wages total war? This question hung in the air as delegates considered the possibilities. Traditional diplomatic relationships were based on mutual respect for certain limits and conventions. Humans appeared to recognize no such limits. I recommend we approach them as equals, suggested Elder Mox. They have earned that status through demonstrated capability. But how do we negotiate with a species that refuses to negotiate? Asked the insectoid delegate. Commander Vex consulted recent intelligence reports. Actually, human diplomatic behavior appears to be quite different from their military behavior. Our cultural analysts indicate they prefer peaceful resolution of conflicts when possible. Then why haven't they responded to Vorthak surrender offers? Because they don't consider the Vorthaks to be genuinely defeated yet. Humans apparently distinguish between tactical withdrawal and strategic surrender. Elder Mox was accessing more human historical data. This pattern appears throughout their history. Humans will negotiate with opponents they consider honorable, but they prosecute total warfare against opponents they consider fundamentally dangerous. What made them classify the Vorthaks as fundamentally dangerous? The Vorthaks attacked civilian colonies without provocation or warning. In human moral systems, this appears to be classified as an unforgivable act that justifies unlimited retaliation. The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed this information. Most galactic species made little distinction between military and civilian targets during warfare. The concept of certain acts being unforgivable was alien to civilizations that had learned to accept negotiated settlements. So humans will negotiate with us because we haven't attacked their civilians? Asked the crystalline delegate. Theoretically, yes, but we should be extremely careful about how we approach them. Ambassador Kethra was already formulating plans. I recommend we send a formal diplomatic mission to human space. Full honors, maximum respect, complete transparency about our intentions. Who should we send? Asked the Centauri delegate. I volunteer, said Elder Mox unexpectedly. I have been studying human culture and history throughout this crisis. I believe I understand their perspective better than most. This was a significant offer. Elder Mox was one of the most respected beings in the galaxy. Sending him as an ambassador would demonstrate maximum respect for humanity. Are you certain, Elder? Human space is currently a war zone, which is exactly why they need to see that we take them seriously. Sending a junior diplomat would be interpreted as an insult. Commander Vex interrupted with an urgent tone. Delegates, I'm receiving reports that human fleets have entered the Vorthak home system. Every being in the chamber focused on the main display. If humans attacked the Vorthak homeworld, they would be crossing a line that had never been crossed in galactic history. Are they targeting military installations? Asked Kethra, unknown. Our monitoring stations are detecting massive human fleet movements, but their intentions are unclear. How many ships? Over 800 vessels. It's the largest fleet ever assembled by any single species. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. 800 ships was larger than most sector defense forces. It represented military capability that matched or exceeded the galaxy's major powers. Elder Mox, called Kethra urgently. How quickly can you reach human space? My personal ship can make the journey in 18 hours. Go immediately.